Hello, and welcome to the TechZero Python Learning course. In this video, we're going to be covering functions. What is a function? A function is a reusable block of code that is defined with the def, which is short for defined, or define, keyword. So we'll say def myfunc, two parentheses, and a colon. And then in here, we'll just print out hello world. Very classic. And then, if we want to use this code anywhere else in our code, we can say myfunc, two parentheses, and that's it. We'll see that doing so will allow us to print out hello world as many times as we want. Now you can pass information into a function via an argument. An argument is placed within the parentheses, both in the function definition and in the function call. So we'll say we're going to have an argument for myfunc call name, and we're going to print out hello name instead of hello world. So we're going to say we're going to pass Jack to the first call of it, and we're going to pass Jane to the second call of it. And we'll see this information that we're passing into the function via the argument comes through just fine. Hello Jack, hello Jane. Now the number of arguments that you pass to the function in a function call must match the number of arguments that are in the function definition right here. So if I have name and age, and I try to call it with just Jack and Jane, we'll get an error. It's missing one required positional argument, age. If I pass in, say, Jack's 6, and Jane is 10, then we'll just do age plus age. Don't forget to convert your age to a string if you're printing it out. And we'll see hello Jack age 6, hello Jack age 10. Two arguments up here in the definition, two arguments passed to the function down here. Now let's say that we wanted to have an arbitrary number of arguments that could be passed to a function. Let's say we don't know how many things we want to pass, or let's say we want to have a function that returns the sum of a bunch of numbers, just some arbitrary number of numbers. We can do that with an asterisk. We can say asterisk nums, and then we'll have x equals 0 for num in nums, x plus equal num. Then at the end, we will print num. You know, it's not what I said I would do. I said I would return it, but we'll get to that momentarily. So now we're going to pass some random number of numbers in here, and we'll only pass 2 in the second call. Oh, and we're printing out x, not num. We'll see what prints out is the sum of all the arbitrary number of numbers that we pass to it. Now, when I described this function initially, I said that it would return the sum. Now, what does returning mean in the context of a function? We'll say return x, and we will say sum1 is equal to that, and sum2 is equal to that. Returning in the context of a function means you take something that was calculated in the function and you pass it back out of the function. Like you can pass an argument into a function, the return value for a function is what you pass back out of it. And usually we'll use that as like an assignment, or we can say if myfunc 12 is greater than 5, print yes. And we'll see that it is. Because when we call this function in this condition right here, the return value, x, which is the sum of the numbers that we pass to it, is what's passed back. So we can basically replace this in our heads with whatever gets passed back from it. In this case, it'll be the value 14. 14 is greater than 5, and so we'll print yes. But we'll see if we print out sum1, and we'll leave sum too. It's fine there. We'll see that sum1 is equal to 93. That's what we've returned from our function. Now, unlike other programming languages, where instead of just having a def statement and then the function name and arguments, you normally have to declare what data type a function is going to be returning. In Python, all you have to do is define the function, give it its name. You don't even need to declare the data types of the variables that are going to be passed into it. This has its benefits and its downsides. I personally kind of like the strong typing, it's called, in C++ and Java, where I can specify what is going to be going into and coming out of a function. There's no ambiguity there. In Python, you have to be a little more careful because I can pass anything to this function. It's not going to specifically take numbers, even though I call this nums, it's only just a label I gave it. If I pass in a list of strings, it's going to, well, let's find out. Let's find out what it does. Say, hello, goodbye, so long. And we'll see what sum1 is equal to now. Turns out we get an error because when we set our x, which is going to be holding the sum for the numbers that we pass in, we try to add a number to a string and we get an error. So when you're doing something with a function in Python, don't assume necessarily that what you expect to get passed in is what is going to get passed in. If you don't know the context that the function call is going to be used in, make sure that you have a way to validate the information that is being passed to it before we start trying to mess with it. Now, when you pass an argument to a function, you can also pass it in key value pairs. Let me demonstrate. We'll go back to what we had before, where we have name and age, and I'll print name plus space plus age. So if we call myfunc down here, we say myfunc, and we'll say age is equal to 5, and name is equal to Jack. And don't forget to convert that to a string again. We'll see that works. Even though they weren't in the same order as they are in the function definition, because we said specifically this is age is going to be 5, and specifically name is going to be Jack, it knows which argument goes with which argument. Now, if you want to pass an arbitrary number of key value pairs, we can say something like this. You use a double asterisk. And we'll call this fruits. Fruits. Why fruits? Well, let's see what we can do with this. We will print out my favorite fruit is plus fruits, and then we're going to access it via some key that we use. Let's say it's going to be red. And then when we pass arguments to the function down here, we can say red is equal to apple. We'll say blue is equal to blueberries. And we'll say yellow is not a string. Yellow is equal to banana. And we'll see in our statement, we pass the key red, which we set up here, red is equal to apple, and we get my favorite fruit is apple. If we come here and we say yellow, it'll print out banana. The values that you pass in are accessed by their keyword. A few more things. You can actually set the default value for an argument in here. We'll say, we'll go back to name and age. Jack, age is equal to 15. Name plus str age. Stick a space in there. Now if we come here and we print, let's pass nothing to it. Pass nothing to it, we'll get Jack 15. If we pass string John, we'll get John 15. If we say age is equal to 20, we'll get Jack 20. And we'll see that the default value is used if a value associated with that argument is not passed into the function. Also, you can pass any data type to a function and it'll be treated as that data type when it gets into the function call. One last thing, you can import functions from other .py files. I have one set up As you might have noticed at the top here, we have from other file. This would be other file.py. You can leave the py off on the import statement here. From other file, import func. I made a function earlier called import func. And we'll just call it here. And we'll see hello from another file. And that can be useful if you want to reuse code elsewhere.